Everything that will be said further is not my invention, but a vision of society obtained on the basis of modern achievements of science and a systemic approach. Society, according to the formulations found on the internet, is a system of social relations. This needs to be supplemented with the meaning, the purpose of society. Therefore, a more precise formulation of society is a set of economic, political, and spiritual relations of people with the desire to live as long as possible with less energy expenditure and improve themselves in future generations. Living bodies, including society, are a product and part of the developing universe. Therefore, society develops according to the laws of the development of the universe. After the Big Bang in the universe, according to the laws of thermodynamics, the temperature and pressure decrease in the increasing volume of the universe. On the way to the thermal death, the energy of the Big Bang turns into more and more complex structures of matter. Somewhere around 4.5 billion years ago, living beings appeared on Earth. It is complex systems of matter and subtle energy. People appeared through evolution. The Big Bang of social development occurred when primitive people began to engage in agriculture on fertile lands. Several thousand years ago, after a long and difficult existence of people in primitive communities, the first states appeared. When food supplies, tools, buildings, and structures appeared, in the most mentally capable and strong members of society developed greed, an immeasurable desire for ownership and consumption. They seized the once public lands, tools and results of public labor, buildings and structures. The greediest members of society became the rulers of states. The graph shows how greed and economic tension, the temperature of society, gradually decrease. When, as a result of rebellions of slaves and poor members of society, landowners found it profitable to lease small plots to peasants, former slaves. This slightly lowered the temperature of economic relations. However, the injustice of feudal society caused many uprisings of peasants and the urban poor. When scientific and technological progress in cities turned workshops into factories, a new class appeared, capitalists. Feudal relations prevented them from making a profit. Bourgeois democratic revolutions occurred in which the power of monarchs was eliminated. Many peasants became proletarians and began to live much better. Economic tension, the temperature of society decreased to such a level that it did not cause rebellions and revolutions. Further development of society and a decrease in the temperature of social relations occurs peacefully, through the struggle of political parties for power. In the most developed countries, social democratic parties lead to information society relations through reforms. Along with the decrease in the temperature of social relations, the tyranny of the rich and rulers is decreasing. In the slaver society, a third of the country's population served in the army, police, courts and prisons. The graph shows how tyranny is decreasing and the freedom of society members is increasing, and in the information society approaching absolute. Along with the decrease in temperature and pressure of social relations, the intellectual level of society grows. All people strive to gain knowledge. Especially the poor members of society want this for their children. The maximum possible knowledge of society is constantly progressing. If in the slave society people thought that the earth was flat, then during the feudalism progressive scientists believed that the earth was round and the sun and other celestial bodies revolved around it. For such an idea the church burned the scientists at the stake. Now we know much more. And this best knowledge is available to everyone. The previously shown graphs show the trends in the development of social relations. The development of energy, material, and living bodies has an oscillatory nature because this kind of movement is less energy intensive. Therefore, the graph shows the abstract oscillatory nature of economic relations. In places where the temperature of society locally increases, uprisings and revolutions occur. In real societies, fluctuations in temperature, relations and pressure depend on many parameters. Firstly, on the genetics of society. On what kind of fluctuations were before. In addition, the nature of the development of society depends on the behavior of neighbors, on participation in wars, natural disasters and other events. For example, regular clashes between Russia and European countries led to a resonance in interstate relations and multi-million losses of people in the First and Second World Wars. Knowing the laws of thermodynamics and solving complex multifactorial equations, these tragic events could have been predicted. But then it was impossible to prevent them. In reason of the enormous forces of social relations and the low intellectual level of people in the early stages of capitalism. Let us recall what was said at the beginning, that society needs to live as long as possible, better. If we imagine a three-dimensional graph with levels of economic, political, and spiritual relations, then in the middle the duration and quality of life of people will fluctuate with them. The fairer the economic relations, the softer the political system and the higher the intellectual level of people, the longer they live. It is not difficult to find the most progressive and backward countries in development. There is such information on the internet. It is possible to find the level of development of your country in life expectancy tables. It turns out that the gross product, armed forces, the role of the state in global processes are not decisive in achieving the goal of society, to improve the lives of people. It is interesting that in 30 years even the most backward countries have improved their lives by 20 years or more. We live in a wonderful time when people rise to the plateau of the information society, in which temperatures and pressures within society and in interstate relations become minimally acceptable. Social relations cannot be reset to zero because this will lead to the heat death of society.